Good morning, everyone. This is Glen Guyton with your morning coffee break. I hope you are doing well this morning. I hope you are ready to go. Depending on where you are, your day may have already started. If it hasn't started yet, grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's get into it. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about uh, just workplace culture, right? What's going on in the workplace? How do we get the most out of our teams? It's a new era of work. How we think about work and showing up in the office is different now, right? Post COVID. Well, funny thing, I've been working remotely or working out of my home office since 2009, and I was told that I would not get the most out of my teams. Um, this was years ago before COVID. But when COVID hit, my team was ready to go. My team was ready to work. We had all of the equipment that we needed. I already had my cameras and lights and all of that kind of stuff, and I was ready to go. And so I had already created a culture uh, to be successful during the pandemic. So now, what are you doing with your teams? How do you get the most out of your teams in this hybrid or remote work environment? It's really about the culture that you create as a leader. And again, I'm talking to leaders, executives. You want to maximize the potential of your employees, right? That's what we always want to do as a leader. Hopefully, as a leader, you're not trying to do everything yourself. You want to take the potential in your employees, your team members, and you want to maximize that so that you can make more money, so you can accomplish your goals, whatever your mission is. You want to get the most out of people. And the one thing I will tell you, I was reading a little bit last night. The one thing that I will tell you, if you want to be successful, is that we as leaders have to live into our dreams and not live into our fears. And I'm going to say that again. We as leaders have to live into our dreams and not live into our fears. If we're always worried about what's going to go wrong with a situation, we'll never get the most out of it. And that's what I'm hearing in regards to some of this remote work and remote workers. It's different, right? It's a change for many people. Again, like I said, I've been doing it since 2009, so it wasn't a big shift for me. I have teams in um, Oregon, California, Kansas, Indiana, and I've been managing those teams effectively since 2009. And so how do you maximize the potential of your teams in this hybrid or remote working environment? Now, a lot of companies are saying, "Hey, just come back to work. Just come on back to work. Come on back into the office." I think I saw something in the news where IBM says, "Hey, you need to move closer to the office. If you don't, get out. Get out. We don't want you." Is that a good business strategy? Maybe it is. I don't know. You have to know what kind of work a place that you want to have, what kind of work culture you have. I was talking to a young man who worked for a team. I won't say what team it is, but he was telling me that they had been working dispersed or remotely since since COVID, since the pandemic, and they told everyone, "Hey, you need to come back to the office. We're getting back to work. Come back in this office so we can watch you. We're gonna put our eyeballs on you, make sure you're doing your job." And you know what happened when they told people to come back to work? What do you think happened? They got sick. All of a sudden, people started getting COVID. They basically had a work slowdown or a sick out because they didn't want to go back into the office. And it was a job really that I would say isn't suited well to be in the office all of the time. It's in the hospitality industry, um, uh, event planning, and so basically their job is to go out and meet clients and take clients on tours of the city and all of those other things. And so, what sense does it make to come back and type on your computer in the office when you're out and about and need to be engaging people not only in your city but across the country? So we have to think about this remote work and why. What are we afraid of? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Now, if you're in a manufacturing business, you need people on the assembly line pushing out widgets, cutting up chickens, or whatever you do. You do need that. But really, some people are more productive out of the office. I know I was. When I went into the office, everyone was sitting around drinking coffee. I know we're drinking coffee this morning and all that kind of stuff. But um, maybe remote work is better in some cases. Some cases it might not be. But if you have a hybrid team, if you have a remote team, I'm going to just give you 5 tips to think about this morning. First of all, just establish clear communication. And these are good leadership principles, right? It's not just because remote work is happening. You should have this in place anyway. Have effective communication. Don't do this dumb open door policy. I think that's the dumb open door policy. I don't have an open door policy. Schedule a meeting with me. I set up intentional times with my teams. I don't just you can't don't just call me anytime because I'm working. I got stuff to do. So establish clear communication channels and procedures. Channels you may use Slack, Teams, all that stuff. Uh, Sometimes it's overwhelming to me. Email, Slack, and Teams, and Zoom, and all these things. Just less is more, in my opinion, when communicating. But just have some established ways that you're going to communicate with your teams. Which tools you prefer, how you like to communicate, how you like to receive information. Make sure you have regular check-ins with your team. Don't just have a meeting to have a meeting. This is some old school uh, wisdom right now. Don't just have meetings to have meetings. Everybody just show up and you just sit around and look at each other. No, have specific times you check in for specific purposes and run your meetings effectively. Nobody just wants to hear you talk. Maybe they want to hear me talk because I'm a professional speaker. I don't know. Next, set defined goals and expectations. Uh, Again, we want to maximize the potential in our teams. People don't know what's in your head. I know I have 1,000 ideas as a leader. I have a vision of what we need to do next, and sometimes I move a little bit too fast for the teams that I've led. So you have to set clear, defined goals and expectations. Have your strategic plan, and then if someone's not meeting those expectations, whether they are working on the beach in the Bahamas or you're sitting there in the office, if you haven't set clear expectations, it doesn't matter where they're located. It doesn't matter what they do. If you're not going to hold them accountable for what you expect, if you haven't told them what you want to do, what you want them to do, how you want them to do it, when you want them to do it, where you want them to do it, it's not going to get done. Have clearly defined goals and expectations, and then people can meet those. And if they don't meet them, then you say, hey, I asked you to do X, Y, and Z. I needed it done by the 31st, and I told you I wanted it in this form. If you didn't do those things, if you didn't tell them, explain those things to them, then you're the problem, not your worker. It's not the location that they're working at. Set clearly defined goals and expectations. Next, foster a strong team culture. That's one thing I think that really will help all of these help us assuage all of these fears. Hey, I was somewhere, and just as a side note, I was somewhere and someone was trying to use the word assuage, and they said assuage. Hey, we're going to assuage, and everybody was like, "What? Assuage? No, assuage." So, how do we put aside those fears? Well, we want to foster a strong team culture. Build a culture of your team. That starts with you, leader. That starts with you of setting the culture. It's not going to come up from the ground. It's not going to bubble up from the ground. It needs to be top down culture. So how you treat people, how you go about your work, how you show up, the energy that you have, that's all important. And you're going to be intentional about setting up culture in a remote hybrid environment. You're going to have some team building exercises. You're going to have to bring in people to motivate your team. You're going to have intentional times of gathering and meeting together, and make sure that when you do come together, that it's with a purpose. Nobody just needs to come and look at each other just because you want them to show up. If you show up in the office, have a plan of what you're going to do, what you want to accomplish, and then let people go on their way and do their work. Now, the next thing, number 4, I think you should offer flexible scheduling. Why not? Hey, are you working like all 8 hours a day in your office? Maybe you are. I don't know. I know there's a lot of downtime, and depending on the type of work that you have, you may need some time just to decompress. So offer some flexible scheduling because people have stuff to do. It's not just about work. Hopefully, you have some stuff to do. Get a life. Again, like I said yesterday, if you drop dead tomorrow, the work is gonna continue. They ain't gonna care nothing about you. So I want you to be productive. I want you to accomplish your goals. Also, I want you to enjoy your life. No need of doing all this work and being stressed out all the time. Relax, have a cup of coffee. But flexibility. Hey, we're in a competitive job market. People have different expectations now, and so employers, you're going to have to change to meet those expectations. I think you do. I think you do. I think people have choices now. People have options. They know they have options now. And so offer some flexibility, uh, some flexible scheduling so that you can get better people, more people. When I first took my job as as an executive, one of the things I asked for is to work remotely, right? I wanted to live where I wanted to live, and they allowed me to do that. And I think they got a good employee out of it. But but because they were flexible, I was able to do my job more effectively and have some peace of mind. And they got a good, excellent employee that was promoted through the ranks and eventually moved to the top echelons of leadership. But if they had said no, Glenn, you got to move to this town where you don't know anybody, where you don't have anything in common with the people. For the most part, me being from a big city, Houston, Texas, moving to a small town, just I don't know how it was going to work. Big city guy moving to a more agricultural town would have been a challenge for me and my family. And so I'm thankful that my job was flexible and allowed me to work in a different way. And next, we have to just provide the right tools and resources for people that are working remotely, hybrid work, and sometimes that involves security, different technical things that you have to give people. I mean, because you have to maintain privacy and other things in some industries, depending on what type of industry you're working with. Cell phones, other communication devices that will help monitor what you do, help monitor what your employees are doing, and again monitoring, not like just spying on them, but monitor that they're getting their jobs done and in an effective manner. So those are just 5 things to think about. Again, if you want to maximize team performance in this hybrid remote working environment, first of all, again, establish clear communication channels with your team, set defined goals and expectations. To me, that's really one of the most important things. Maybe it's number 2. Number 1, in my opinion, the most important thing would be to foster a strong team culture. So you're going to have to be intentional about this. And that's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing to be intentional about setting your team culture, to understand, to get to know your team. We have to make an effort to do that now, especially if we have remote hybrid workers. Then, if you want to be competitive, I think you're going to have to offer some flexible scheduling. Give people some options so you can have an advantage in this competitive job market. And then the last thing is just providing the right tools and resources for people. So, hey, let's operate out of a position of strength. Uh, let's think differently. Let's dream a little bit as leaders. Don't get boxed in, right? You're a leader. You're supposed to have a little vision. You're supposed to be a step ahead of everybody else. Don't just manage people, right? It was a big thing with Lamar Jackson and all these other football players. Cam Newton talked about game managers versus game changers. I want you to be a game changer. I want you to transform your organization and think differently. Don't just get locked into a specific way of doing work. Take some risks. Be a visionary, and that way you'll attract top talent. You'll have a workforce that's healthy, that's enthusiastic, and that believes in your vision. I go out to eat every now and then, and I go to some restaurants. And during the pandemic, I went to one restaurant, and it was booming, right? It was booming with employees. They were happy, and they were. I mean, it was a ton of like servers in the restaurant. And then I go to another restaurant, and they say, "Hey, help wanted. We can't find people. We don't have enough uh, wait staff to really maximize the number of tables that we have in this restaurant." What's the difference? It has to be the culture. It has to be the leadership. For one restaurant to be fully staffed, to be packed to the rim with people, employees, every table full, versus a restaurant saying, "Hey, we can't get enough employees. We're struggling, so we're only going to be able to utilize 50% of our restaurant." What's the difference, right? Food is pretty much food, and the food was probably, I think, was good at both of those places. But I have to think that one place had a stronger culture. It had better leadership. It had leadership that took care of its people. It knew how to treat it's one of its most valuable resources, and that's the staff. So I hope you're having a good day. Again, go out and do something great today. Go out and do something great today. I want you to live your life, but not only that, love the life that you live. And leadership is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Isn't it great to be a leader? So I applaud you. Have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, kombucha, whatever you're drinking today, and I will talk to you next time. Again, this is Glen Guyton. Have a great day.